and it will be Saturday night in Death Valley.
He's running over people! Oh, you Herschel Walker!
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight!
We thank you for joining us here on Sweet Home SEC. Clint Schweitzer, Noah Groniger, it is great to have you here. We're going to be talking about some of the big happenings this week in college football, and it's specifically the SEC. And of course, as always, it's brought to you by Stadium Crashers, the full-length documentary. We did it. We produced it. We filmed it. StadiumCrashers.com. You can get a copy. A very unique look at life in the SEC during the off season. It's very different.
Yes, crashing stadiums in the summer, seeing if we can get in, who we can interview, find some fans around, take in the culture, the nightlife. And this is, if you buy this is really going to help us fundraise for our next film, Saturday Supremacy, the ultimate SEC football documentary.
That is coming, and we thank you for joining us again. Thank you for downloading on iTunes or listening on YouTube. Either way, watching on YouTube rather, whichever medium you decided to go with. We appreciate that. Our website is always gasnsports.com, at GASN Sports on Twitter. Hit us up. We always appreciate the feedback. And coming off of a very strange week here in the SEC, a week where things stood out to me like. We talked to Erik Ainge last week from WNML in Knoxville, former Tennessee quarterback. We kind of glossed over the game against UMass, except for the fact that the Vols had to hold on 17-13 to beat UMass, and that sets up a game with the Georgia Bulldogs, and we're going to talk to Erik Ainge about that game as well this week, about taking on the Georgia Bulldogs, a team that looks to me like the best team in the East by far after manhandling Mississippi State, a team that last week I said was a contender in the SEC West.
Well, apparently we were wrong on that. I was kind of with you there, but this Georgia Bulldogs team, I mean, I guess you can say the Florida Gators are right there, but they had a close win against Kentucky, close win against Tennessee. We'll see how Georgia fares against Tennessee this weekend, but looking at their quarterback, Jake Fromm, will Jacob Eason get his job back is the question now.
I don't think so. I don't think he does at this point.
Is Eason going to transfer somewhere for next year? This is interesting to me, just Jake Fromm coming in playing so well, and if Eason gets healthy, are they going to move him back in? Are they going to do a quarterback by committee, give them each a series here or there? What's going to happen? That's a big storyline for Georgia.
I love what Georgia has in the running game. Nick Chubb, of course, still at Georgia. Seems like he's been there forever.
Sony Michel, if he can get healthy.
Both the duo. And then you also have, the defense at Georgia. That Kirby Smart, he was a defensive guy, a defensive guru. He was the defensive coordinator from Alabama. And he's brought that intensity to the Georgia Bulldogs, clearly. And they're a team that's in the top 10 now, deservedly so. Props to them and what they've done. I like Georgia the rest of the way. They're going to stumble somewhere. I can't really tell you where, whether that be at the cocktail party against Florida, whether it be at home against Missouri. I was going to see if you were going to catch that.
I caught that, definitely. I like Vanderbilt to win the East. They only lost 59-0.
Good gracious. There's games that remind you that Vandy is Vandy, and that was one of them, Alabama going.
That was only Alabama's third largest road win in the conference. Only third. So
you saw teams emerge, and I think that you don't have to emerge if you're Alabama. You're already there. You're sitting at the mountaintop. But in the East, you do need someone to emerge. And I think that Georgia maybe has done that. You did see Auburn go into Columbia, Missouri, and just put on a clinic. You like what you see there from quarterback Jared Stidham. Auburn, maybe we wrote off because of their offense, but maybe they're that team that's going to be the second place in the SEC West and challenge Alabama. Auburn's going to play Mississippi State at home coming up. I love Auburn in this game. I love War Eagle. I love Gus Malzahn. I think Auburn maybe is that 10-win type team that's going to be right there against Alabama. Probably not actually challenge them in head-to-head or anything.
I think we put a little too much stake into that Mississippi State LSU game. We might have kind of been just 1 week wonders, and we kind of went off the deep end. Monday morning quarterback, we kind of went off the deep end, bought into Mississippi State a little too much. They came back to earth, and I think they're going to again against Auburn. They're not going to win this football game. That defense is too strong. I think Stidham, Petway in the backfield, I think they get it done, enough done on offense to win that football game.
We're going to be talking Tennessee and Georgia, a game that saw Tennessee win on a last-second Hail Mary last year in Athens. This time it's going to Rocky Top, and we've got our guest again this week, WNML's Erik Ainge from Knoxville, former Vol quarterback. Give us your thoughts. We got Tennessee at home taking on these Georgia Bulldogs. What do you see in this game, Erik?
Yeah, I think that you have to find a way to make a young quarterback uncomfortable. It's actually a blessing sometimes when you're young and you're new and you're green, because you don't know to worry about all this other situational football that I'm talking about. The coaches know you don't know it, so they don't put you in those situations, and they don't expect you to, or they have to remind you of all these things going on. But you don't want to let a guy like that who's talented. I was this way when I was in college. You don't want them to start feeling pretty good about themselves. You don't want them to, halfway through the first quarter go, oh, man, I thought these guys were going to be, a little tougher than they are. We can torch these guys. You got to get on them early. You got to pressure them early. You have to get them off the spot, make them feel uncomfortable. And if you can do that, then I think that he'll, there's some opportunity and obviously stop the run. Gosh, both teams right now are very good at running the football. So it'll be a good game. It'll be fun.
Well, and talking about Georgia a little bit further, I mean, Coach Kirby Smart comes in, no head coaching experience, but comes in and last season was up and down for them. And going into this year, they've been talked about as the prohibitive favorite in the East so many times in the last 10 years, dating back to Mark Richt, and they haven't always lived up to that. Something seemed to be missing for Georgia. What do you think, Kirby Smart's going to have to do going forward to get Georgia to be the perennial SEC East favorite? I know that's hard to ask a Tennessee guy, but what do you think? What do you think Kirby Smart's prognosis is down in Georgia?
He's going to need an act of God. That's my response. It ain't going to happen. No, of course, I'm just being facetious. I think Kirby Smart's a really good defensive-minded coach. I think he's got a good coaching staff there. Sam Pittman is a good O-line guy. Jim Chaney is a real. I think he's a good coordinator anyway. I mean, he was when he had Drew Brees. And he, maybe he forgot how to call plays all of a sudden. He does throw the ball a little too much in what I deem run downs and run situations. But anyway, I think that they're on the right track. They're recruiting well. Keep the kids, from Georgia's going to Georgia, and they're always going to get some guys arrested. And, that's what Spurrier used to love. Great thing about getting Georgia early is you can count on about 3 to 5 of their best players not being out there. So if Kirby Smart does that and has the same approach that Mark Richt did, which I doubt he will, I think that they have a chance to do something. And as much as I hate Georgia guys and grown men barking at each other like that, come on. But I do really think that having an alum like him coach your school is a little extra special. So it would make it even more fun, and it would hurt him even more if we could go be their first loss, or maybe second loss, actually, would be ideal if Mississippi State could get them this weekend.
Well, Eric, I think maybe my ears are playing tricks on me. Did I hear a former quarterback say someone else is passing the ball too much, and even in rundowns?
Hey, and that's mainly, I'm dating myself back to 2012 Tennessee with Tyler Bray and Michael Rivera, Justin Hunter, and Cordero Patterson, and gosh, I know he had Tyler Bray, who was had a cannon for an arm, and he wasn't going to run ever. But still, I mean, they wore it out. We had to punt a few times. That I used some FCC choice words on those drives.
Well, we know Tyler Bray pretty well here in Kansas City. Of course, he's a third string here for the Kansas City Chiefs, so we've gotten to know Tyler quite a bit.
A tin man in the backfield, can't really move very well.
Yeah, you know what, Tyler, I'm proud of Tyler. Sorry if you can hear that. My 4-year-old daughter's following me. Tyler is one of those guys that because he played with Derek Dooley, who's probably the worst football coach in the history of people that have ever attempted to coach football. I'm told he's a co-writer of Football for Dummies.
Yes.
What he is. But Tyler really had a hard time with Dooley, and that's ultimately, why he ended up leaving early, and he's really matured. Everyone thought he was immature and kind of a punk when he was here. He just had to play for Dooley. I like to think I've handled it different, but, I don't know that I would have. So I'm glad that he's got to be in Kansas City and have a great start throwing. Hopefully he can play for a really long time.
Eric, can't thank you enough for joining us. Let's catch up down the road as Missouri plays Tennessee later on. We'll preview that game. We'll talk more about this documentary. We appreciate you the time, my man. Good luck to the Vols.
Of course. See you guys.
You bet.
Thanks. Huge thanks to Erik Ainge coming back on the show, talking a little bit about this Bulldogs Volunteers game. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. Can the Volunteers pull off this kind of big upset? It looks like now with the way that Jake Fromm and this Bulldogs team is playing right now, very impressive. We'll look to see this weekend if the Volunteers can pull the upset. But we're going to move on to our biggest winners and losers of this weekend. I've got TCU coming up with that big win against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State couldn't get anything done. Just Mason Rudolph, he looked to maybe be a Heisman candidate, and it is only 1 week. Maybe he can get back on track and get back in the race, but they just couldn't get anything done. Very impressed with TCU and how they played. Kenny Hill at quarterback was outstanding for them in big key third down situations and situations in the red zone on the football field. Another one is Penn State against Iowa. Iowa looked to have that game in their hand late in the game. Trace McSorley comes out, throws that pass in the back of the end zone, just outstretched of the Iowa defender's hands. I don't know how he did it. He was falling off his back foot, gets it right over the defender's fingertips in the back of the end zone for the game-winning touchdown, Penn State.
Going to be hard to follow that, but you know what? The biggest loser from college football, week 4, resides in the same state that we're sitting in right now, and that's the Missouri Tigers. It's not that they lost to Auburn. A lot of people expected that, but the way that Missouri's been non-competitive for 3 consecutive weeks now, including a 35-3 loss to Purdue a week ago. Missouri right now sits at the bottom of the barrel in all of Power 5. Barry Odom came out with some very fiery comments after the game, and it reeked of desperation to me, saying that this is the hand he was dealt, saying that this is a rebuild, saying that this is a turnaround project now, and that's what he was dealt. I don't think so. Going into this season, Missouri was supposed to be an upstart, a team that contended, a team that could get to a bowl game and bring this fan base and make it united again. All it's done, drive people away, drive people to the pumpkin patches and the apple cider and the concerts and the outdoor activities, because right now Missouri, this hashtag is show me. Missouri's not showing me anything other than that Barry Odom is not cut out for this job. I think that Barry Odom's in bad trouble. Year 2, as non-competitive as Missouri's been, this offense returned 10 starters. Granted, there's been some reshuffling on the offensive line. Everything about it, from Demaria Crockett, from the passing game in Drew Lock, from receivers, Jamon Moore, Jonathan Johnson, everything about it has been a complete and utter disappointment and a disaster at a time where Missouri and the fans needed this program to turn it around. It's not happening. Odom basically pleading for his own job after the loss to Auburn, a 51-14 non-competitive effort at home. You tell me before the season, Missouri plays Auburn at home. You know, they only play these teams from the West, like an Auburn, once every 12 years. I wouldn't have missed that game for the world. As it was, I was at the Scorpions concert in Chicago because I knew the outcome of this. And I knew that what has become of this program, coming off back-to-back East titles in 13 and 14, this is not the Missouri that we've seen. And this is a whole new situation. And for a new coach or whatever it's going to be for athletic director Jim Sturt, only a long ways to go, and I see nothing good coming out of this rest of the season.
It's hard to believe that they scored 72 points in week 1, no matter who it was against. 72 points. How does this offense do that and then completely fall on their face and not be able to just move the ball at all in this league? And now, can Missouri ever have their basketball and football programs both be up on the same page? Can that happen? I mean, their basketball team was atrocious under Kim Anderson. The football team was just thriving with Gary Pinkel. Gary Pinkel leaves, Kim Anderson leaves. Now the basketball team looks to be rising, and the Missouri football program is in shambles under Barry Odom.
Missouri is just Missouri is sort of an adjective at this point. Well, more of a verb. Just Missouri doing Mizzou things, Mizzouing as we call it.
You've been Mizzou'd.
It is tough deal. Hey. Thanks so much for joining us here on Sweet Home SEC. We digress to hopefully better things. Hopefully a great weekend here of camaraderie and checking out these games. That's what it's all about. That's what the SEC sets itself apart, because these games, they just mean more. Even in a week that doesn't sit here and jump off the page at you with banner matchups, you see and what this means to these people and going to these games. When you're at a game in the SEC, it feels great, and that's what we hope to bring to the table with our next documentary, Saturday Supremacy. Thanks so much for joining us here on Sweet Home SEC. Enjoy your sweet tea and maybe a little vodka. You might need it if you're a fan of some of these teams. Missouri's off, so you're good to go there.
Anchor down, Commodores. I'm with you.